Yeah, and I think just starting the season and being able to get game one and learn from that, be able to get the film and see where we got to make huge improvements. And you guys heard me say the jump you got to make from week one to week two. And, start of the week, guess what? We're both 0-0 and we're searching to get a win this Saturday, just like they are.
What do you, what's the biggest jump you want to see from next
Well,
week?
I always start on the positives. We talk about complementary football, and you're never as good as you think on film, and never as bad as you think when you watch film. And to come off the field knowing we created 4 turnovers and didn't give up any turnovers, I like that. I like the fact that special teams outside of one penalty played very solid with our punting game and field goal kicker and kickoff. We had 2 explosives inside the 20. But the areas we need to get better and running the football. Explosives. We talk about explosives. Explosives turn into touchdowns. There was a series there where we got a 3-and-out by the defense in the first half. I think it was 7-7, 3-and-out. They punt. They snap it over the head. Got a delay of game. They punted the ball. Max gives us a great return to midfield. We hit an explosive on 2nd and 1 down, and we score a touchdown. To me, that's complementary football. Defense did their job, got off field. Special teams did a great job. Now offense came. We created an explosive and scored a touchdown. So you're trying to do that every time. And I know it's hard. You want to be perfect, but where we got to make the most improvement, we had 4 takeaways and didn't score any points from those 4 takeaways. And that's where we got to help. That complementary football is you got to get points off turnovers. We got 21 points, but none of them came off those turnovers.
Oh, rush 28.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many we
Yeah.
combined. Is that too many?
Yeah, I mean, we always, sometimes the game you go into it with your game plan and the reads. A lot of those are reads where he hands it or keeps it, and maybe the read was for him to keep it. So yeah, it ends up being a lot of carries. Do we want to do that? No, we know it's a long season, and we got to take care of our guys, and we do, I believe, have a good running back room, and got to get those guys involved also.
So if you're going against, your former coordinator in Troy, he knows his program,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming pretty well. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you kind of counter that?
You know what? The players play the game. If I had to go out there and make a tackle, I don't. So it comes down to our players and putting a game plan together that our kids can execute. That practice execution becomes game reality. We saw at times last week when we executed, things go well. When we don't execute, guess what? Things don't go well. So for us, it's always to focus on what we can control. Okay, can't control anything Robert Morris, and they're good. You watched, last year when I watched tape and watched the Utah State, and they're winning 14-10 at halftime against West Virginia. It's 10-3. You have to understand those power 4, power 5 teams. They got unlimited scholarship. So eventually, you just don't have as many scholarship players. So this is a very fundamentally sound football team. From last year that won 7 games. That's a heck of a lot of games to win. Went 4-2 in their league. They're fundamentally sound. They're well coached. Coach Clark does a heck of a job there. And it's going to be a great football game on Saturday. And just like all of us, they replaced a lot of players. They had to. Got a new quarterback that played 1 game last year. We're able to watch. They had to plug in some, and they're still figuring out. When you're playing these early games, you're figuring out who are we. Yeah, you can go through camp against yourself, but until you get games, you're figuring out what can our kids do, what's our best personnel, what's our best blitz packages, what's our best coverages, and then you go in after a game and you evaluate and say, you know what, we did this well, we didn't do this well, here's what we got to improve upon. And that's the fun thing about college football is, and you see a lot of mistakes, playing on Thursday night, probably the only time you had a chance to watch any college football was this weekend, and you see mistakes that happen, whether it's ball security, whether it's clock management, whether it's giving up sacks in a 2-minute. Our 2-minute the other night, we expect to execute, and we had 2 penalties. We don't have 2 penalties. I want to go down and get scores 7 more before half and go up 28-7, and we get a hold and we get a misalignment. And you can't make those mistakes and win Missouri Valley Football Conference games. And for us, it's about that preparation these next 3 weeks that we got to get better.
Now, before last week, there's been a lot
Yeah.
Obviously hit the ball.
Yeah.
Look like somebody who was, itching to
Yeah.
get back out there. Is that something that you always usually get pull off?
You know, you do. You see it in practice. You know, you see it in practice, but until the lights come on, until you're going against somebody else, you don't know. You know, there's 700 days I think he did not play football. And, you know, we got guys that come in here, shoot 2 scouts here today. And, you know, the thing was, if, you know, I can't wait to see him play. And to be able to see him play and execute and make tackles and make plays, you know, force a fumble, fumble recovery, interception. But he'll be the first one to tell you he's got a lot to improve upon. You know, you play that first game and it comes down to the details, the fundamentals. Where's your eyes? Where's your hips? Those things in coverage. And I think he'd be the first one to say, yeah, had a lot of productivity, but there's a lot more room for improvement that I need to make.
Even, one game to look at, but have you seen a marked improvement defensively, especially in that secondary? You mentioned the turnovers. There weren't a lot of those in the secondary last year. It seemed like you had them.
I think we had 3 interceptions all last year. So to get 2 in one game, yes, I saw more coming downhill. I seen better tackling than we probably did last year. You know, defensively, I thought played where they passed for a lot of yards, but ultimately you're trying to keep them out of the end zone. In the one drive they scored late, it's 4th down, and a penalty occurs that we made the same exact penalty against Southern Illinois in the 4th quarter of a football game that gave them field position, gave them a 1st down and an opportunity to score. And, those are the things where we can't keep making those mistakes. It's insanity if you do. And are we going to be hard on our kids? Yes, we're going to be critical because we're smarter than that, smarter than leading with our head. And those are the areas we got to get better. We had a personal foul, and that personal foul gives them momentum in the same drive. So you play great. You're playing good defense, passing for a lot of yards. I get it, but there's no blown coverages. 23 made some great catches with guys on him. And to be able to give away based on 2 penalties, those are the things that if you don't take care of that now and that reappears when we get into league play, you're going to lose Missouri Valley Football Conference games.
You talked a lot about it last year. In that moment when they have an opportunity to get back in the game, the body language, how your guys respond, what did you see?
Yeah, and it's that complimentary football. There's going to be highs and lows. I showed kids clips from the Miami Notre Dame game. Notre Dame roars back. There's a blown coverage, and Miami's playing great defense, blows a coverage. Next thing you know, it's a tied football game, and Miami answered. I mean, there's going to be times in a game where other teams take advantage, but you got to stay together. When I say staying together as one, knowing, hey, offense, we got your back, okay? Yes, it hasn't been a perfect day for you. Don't worry, we got your back. We're going to keep playing great defense. We give up a touch. Hey, defense, don't worry. We're going to get 1st downs. We're going to close this game out. We're not going to let them get back on the field. So those are the areas of the game that I love, and I want to see how our kids respond in those times, because that gives you a better idea of who they really are. So there's times in that game I like how our kids responded. Was there a law? Yeah, we want to play perfect. We want to score every time we touch the ball. We want to go, not let offenses score touchdowns and be perfect on our special teams. That's what you strive for. That's why we practice. That's why we go on the field. And, we're going to demand that and expectations.
We talk about wanting to see more from the run game. Based on what you guys have learned from the film from last week, is that just based on what the running backs are doing? Is it the blocking on the O-line, or is it a combination?
Well, you get on a roll. I think the first 3, we get on a row, and you probably saw some tempo, and then all of a sudden you get 3rd and long. Maybe you didn't get on a roll, and all of a sudden now it's 3rd and long, and you get out of that rhythm. So for us, it's still feeling each other out. We got a lot of new personnel at wide receiver, figuring out what they can do. We still got some new guys at running back that haven't played a lot of football. They've practiced a lot of football. They haven't played a lot of football. Got a new offensive coordinator, new coaches on the offense side. They're all working together. And do I worry? No. They're very intelligent, sometimes problem solving to get into games where defenses, you don't know what they're going to give, and, being able to execute. But I think that's going to be something that you're going to see major improvements, I think, as the season goes.